Okay. Hi. Hello, everybody. And also, hello to the folks that might be watching this in the future. I love to address you folks because you are important too. I am Joshua Gonzalez with Abundant Housing LA. I am the education director. And tonight we are talking about ADUs, that is accessory dwelling units, in case you didn't know. We had a fantastic law pass last year, but there is more to it. A law passed, but we have to do more, right? So now the work sort of begins. Tonight, we are joined by a couple of folks. First, Jaime Del Rio is here. He's AHLA's organizing director. And so, thank you for being here, Jaime. He will help us with some of our next step stuff for our chapters. But tonight, our star, if you will, is Celeste Goyer with Casita Coalition. She is here to give us the lowdown on the ADU stuff and to give us some resources so that way we can go ahead and get our local municipalities to opt in to AB 1033 because we want people to be able to sell their ADUs as condos. If you don't know about Abundant Housing LA, just briefly want to let everyone know that we are a nonprofit pro housing advocacy organization. We do what we do through policy reform, through education, and through grassroots organizing. And our goal is just to get more housing built in Los Angeles. That is all levels of affordability, that is all kinds of typologies of housing. That is to say, apartments, that is also to say, duplexes, quadplexes, condos, so on and so forth. And also the big one, which we're talking about tonight, ADUs. Yes. Thank you so much, Celeste and Casita Coalition, for partnering with us. Celeste, if you would like to take it from here, please introduce yourself and maybe tell us a little bit about Casita Coalition, and then go from there.
Great. Thanks so much for inviting me on, and I'm excited to share info with you and to put this amazing organization to work to help cities and the county understand the importance of opting in. So have you enabled my ability to share? Okay, great. But first, I'll just say that Casita Coalition has a ton of overlap with what the mission you just heard about Abundant Housing LA. We are specifically focused on middle housing, and that includes ADUs. So we are a multi-sector nonprofit that works through policy reform, education, messaging, convening, and everything we have to do so that we remove those barriers to the types of homes that we need that we simply don't have, the attainable ones. And yeah, so I'm going to just run down quickly what this opportunity is, how you can help cities opt in, and give you some resources to make that happen. So I will share my screen and get this rolling as a slideshow. Okay. So the bill that passed was called AB 1033, and cities do have to opt in to this allowance to sell ADUs separately. The city of San Jose was the first to do that, and they did that in August. The mayor stated in his remarks that day that he felt San Jose was at risk of losing potential residents who could not afford to buy a home there. So why should cities and counties consider it? Why is this important? Well, only 15% of Californians can afford to purchase the median priced home, which is now over $800,000. And we have the second lowest rate of home ownership. So it's serious. And ADU condos can create a new pipeline. Starter homes are something maybe it's the most underproduced type of home we have, type of residence that we have. And it's working in other places, Portland, Austin, Seattle. There's a place in New Jersey that's been doing this for a while. It is working. Why should not Californians have this opportunity too? So where that's working, ADU condos are selling, as my graphic says, about 40 to 60% the cost of single unit homes in the same neighborhoods. There's a very nice resource on the HCD, which is the Housing and Community Development website. It is called the APR Data Dashboard or the Annual Progress Report Dashboard. And on around about page 8 or so, you can select your jurisdiction, select your housing type, and see how many things of these things have been built in the last whatever year you want. And I dropped this in here to show you that Los Angeles has produced more ADUs than anybody by far statewide. Out of 113,000 ADUs permitted in the state since 2017, LA has produced more than anybody. So the opportunity is here. As you all know, I don't think I have to go over this, accessory dwelling units are an independent, separate unit on a lot with either a primary home, a single family lot, or a multifamily property. And why would someone want to convert it? Mostly people build them, they rent them out, maybe they use them for their extended family or an elder, but why would you convert it? To separate ownership and debt, to sell it to pay off the debt, and in the case of a developer, to find the highest and best use of a lot to create more homes on one lot, to bring the cost of the land down. And there are two main categories, as you can imagine, of these conversions. Existing homes and ADUs. There are, as we know, many thousands, tens of thousands of ADUs in Los Angeles. Not everyone wants to be a landlord. There are complexities around being a landlord. And there may be very good reasons why you would want to sell one of your units. Maybe you want to sell the primary home. Maybe you want to move into the ADU. Perhaps it's more accessible and you have mobility challenges. And you can pay down your mortgage and sometimes eliminate your mortgage by selling one of those units. The other option is new construction ADUs. We see in Portland and in Seattle and Austin that most of these are built by small and middle-sized businesses who are developers. And they create these homes, they sell them, and people get opportunities to purchase. So in California, how many units are there going to be? Well, there can be pretty much a maximum of 3, and you're going to mostly see 2 units, but when developers get involved, there may be 3. Primary home, detached ADU, and there's the potential for an attached ADU as well to be sold. You cannot sell a junior ADU separately as a condo. If there is one on the lot, it must stay with whatever, probably the primary home, whatever unit it's already with. So why, again, why? I'm just going over this again. And here's a great quote from Cole Peterson. He's like the pioneer of ADU development from Portland, Oregon. And he says, condoized ADUs are the least expensive form of urban infill new housing production, period. Because Casita Coalition, among other people, has worked to streamline the production, to reduce the fees, to make it something that cities and counties have to, by right, allow homeowners to build. And wherever you make something by right, you're going to reduce timeline, you're going to reduce cost. There won't be people reviewing it in committees and making their discretionary judgments upon what you can build. So in Seattle, it's working brilliantly. I was just up there for an event and they're beautiful, they're amazing, and they're popping up in neighborhoods all over. 416 in 2022 alone as ADUs condos. About at least half of new ADUs are built as condos. And the quote there about Portland. Okay, hang on. So we spoke with an attorney in Austin, Texas, who has condoized over 2,000 units, 2-unit condos, which totals 4,000 in Austin. So she has done a lot of these, and she has it down to kind of to a science. And she talked to us about why it's done, why are they popular. There is a huge demand for these. They're new units, they've got privacy. It's not like a condo in an apartment complex where you don't have any outside space. They have a lot of appeal to buyers. They frequently sell first if you have both units for sale. They also allow families to live together on a lot, but with separate ownership. As if you're part of a family, you know that we don't always agree, and it can be very important to separate ownership. So Austin recently allowed 3 units by right. So that means the developer can come in, purchase, renovate the main home, add 2 ADUs, and instantly create a triplex for sale. Well, I mean, not instantly, but pretty quickly. Here's an example of a unit with 2 ADUs in Portland in a backyard of a primary home and was converted to a 3-unit condo. Sold quickly, You see the pricing compared to the homes in the neighborhood, which are over 800,000. They're beautiful. Almost anyone would be excited about that opportunity. They're a great aging in place strategy. Um, as this example shows, she was able to sell the condo and pay off her mortgage. It's a gigantic, gigantic thing. But there are a lot of different ways families might use them. I'm going to provide these slides to you afterwards, so we don't have to go over every detail here. But I just want to say that these are just 3 examples of the many ways in which they can work for building multi-generational wealth, for helping if you've got adult children who are being priced out of your community, might have to move out of state, you can pool your resources, build an ADU condo, and they can be nearby but with their own privacy and their own ownership and help them build equity. Okay, so what are cities going to have to do? The law says, AB 1033 said we're removing, and it just crossed out the line in state law that said ADUs may not be sold separately. But it does say the cities must opt in order to allow this. This is frequently the first step of legislation where you say this, you may allow this. And then down the road, maybe you get to the point where you say you must allow this. And then the next state is to say, this is how you're going to do it. So, but we start with, let's allow it. You may allow it. So that's where we are. And the first thing they have to do is look at their local ADU ordinance and take out the restriction against sale. The second thing is adopting those items in state law that we have a variety of steps to the process, which they can just take wholesale the state law provisions right into their local ordinance, or they can tailor them to their own community's requirements. And there's some consumer noticing, which they have to do for information for applicants. So Casita Coalition also recommends that you have comprehensive checklists. So a person coming in and looking at doing this knows exactly what they're going to have to do and who they're going to have to talk to, and has all the steps right in front of them, the transparency of the process. And also, let's say your jurisdiction, you're concerned about these being done mostly for rental and not really providing the kind of homeownership opportunity you want. What you could do, and some folks are doing it down in San Diego County, they're looking at this option. For 45 days, the first time the listing goes up, restrict it to owner occupants. If you're going to buy it, to live in it yourself, not to rent it. And then waive some fees, make it easier and cheaper for people to do it. Okay, so what are some of the talking points? You're going to want to talk to the elected officials in your city. You're going to want to talk to your neighbors and your friends about this and get people excited about it. Why should anybody care? Well, first of all, it's not a radical change. You can condo convert almost anything in California. Apartments, duplexes, triplexes, there are commercial condos. There are all kinds of things you can do that with. So opting in just adds single family properties to that list of things where you can do it. And we've already had for a while the ability for nonprofits. I think this was put in state law specifically for Habitat for Humanity, but nonprofits of a certain type have been able to sell ADUs separately for a while, and the sky has not fallen. So this is not a scary thing. And it is based on very well-established existing structures of law, such as the Davis-Sterling Common Interest Development Act, Subdivision Map Act. All these are established things. How can you, as organizers and the people who are going to be on the ground in these cities, make this happen? I would start, first of all, with research by checking into where your city or county is. So you can do that by scouting around on the agendas for the meetings, city council meetings, do a word search, see if they're talking about it, do some Google searching to see if you can find any news stories about it. Maybe they're already talking about it. Maybe it's on an agenda already. It would be great to know that so you could show up at the right meeting. If you don't see anything, then just go to the next meeting and get on the public comment for items not agendized. So you can start with an email to the city council or to your board of supervisors. We've got a template, which I've shared with Joshua about that you can customize or just put your name in to send to everybody. You have to send, as you know, you have the procedure. You got to send it to everybody on the city council or to the staff person. Show up when it's discussed. Find a homeowner with an ADU, that's not too hard in LA, who'd be interested in selling it if they have the opportunity, if it would help their family. Talk to them, coordinate, get some people to show up in the way that you all know how to do. And then I'm thinking almost everybody on this call can be the person who talks about how there's nothing for us to buy that is at any kind of affordability for regular people who don't earn $250,000 a year. So that crowd of people who can talk about that at any city council meeting should be really easy to find. And then you can just talk about the fact that this is not a completely new scary monster. It's being done, it's been done for years, and we urgently need these opportunities. You're going to get objections. We already are starting to hear a lot of the objections. Our neighborhoods will be overwhelmed. So the key point here is opting in doesn't change what can be built. You can still only develop the same number of ADUs on a lot that you could before. AB 1033 didn't change that. So it just changes the ownership options. And if you don't do something like this, and if you don't look into middle housing options to increase the number of units on a lot, developers will just redevelop older homes, knock them down, and put in McMansions. This we see happening all over. Developers their projects have to pencil out. If you make it too hard or impossible to build things, like more units on a lot, which they want to do, then what you're going to get is McMansions that nobody can afford and a worsening problem. So, and feel free to jump in with questions. This is just the structure. I'm happy to answer questions. Just anybody wants to coordinate the moderating or notice hands that are up. Okay. So who's building them? Another objection, only developers and investors will build these. Well, who do you think builds homes? It's developers. It's not homeowners. We're not developers. So the good thing is that these are small projects. They're perfect for small and medium-sized developers, for local people, for emerging developers. And they're an absolutely great bite-sized project for these smaller people that we want to encourage, that we need to encourage to make a more inclusive development ecosystem. So as there's another note here about the owner occupant thing, if you're concerned about them all being rentals, there are things you can do about that. But it is shown that in other places where they do this, they're mostly the smaller developers. So I'm going to share these slides. We have an updated ADU condo guidance memo that includes the materials from San Jose, their checklists, their process steps. We've now had 2 webinars about this topic. We just had one today. And the recordings and the slide decks are on our webinar library page. I'll share the link with that. And then we have an info sheet. So I'm going to stop sharing and show the info sheet, but we can take a pause for questions.
Yeah, thank you, Celeste. I do wanna it looks like, so by the way, for folks who may not know, or for anyone who's viewing later, we also actually have the owner of an ADU company on the call today. That's Andrew Slocum. And so one of our chapter members in Glendale, Shane, in the chat asked, I'm slightly confused about the unit maximums and attached versus non-attached. And Andrew answered saying that AB 1033, and this echoes some of what Celeste was just saying, that doesn't change the sizes that are allowed for ADUs. It's specifically that once an ADU is built, it's allowed to be sold. Um, and so the types of ADUs allowed to be built is a different conversation, right? But for this, we're looking at just making it sort of like we want to allow, and that we must allow for these ADUs to be condoized and to be sold as such. And so that's a great question, and thank you for asking that, Shane. I think one of the questions that I had, or maybe it wasn't a question, but again, I think that even though this is specific about getting cities or municipalities to opt in, you will get people that are going to object ADUs in general, right? And so I think that one of the things that I've more recently heard is also like, well, my neighbor is building an ADU, and now I feel like I won't have privacy. Um, I don't know if there's a good answer for that, right? Like, I don't know if there's a good answer for that.
There's a great answer for that because there are no restrictions. ADUs cannot be taller than whatever kind of primary home you could build on a lot. In most cases, they are going to be a lot shorter. So the city doesn't say that someone can build an excessively oversized primary home next door to you, and that could affect your privacy. But, ADUs aren't going to be worse than whatever could be built on a vacant lot anyway.
Thank you. Bobby, what do you got?
Thank you, Joshua. Celeste, I want to clarify something you brought up earlier about what can and can't be sold separately.
Mhm.
Is the distinction that junior ADUs cannot be sold separately, like by the state definition of a JADU, or is it whether it's attached or detached from the primary residence?
It's the junior ADU definition, which limits that. Because junior ADUs specifically are built within the interior space. Sometimes it's an attached garage or a previous bedroom, and it's allowed to share a bath. So it's not as by
Mm,
definition self-contained as an ADU.
got it.
So the attached ADUs absolutely can be sold as condos. So basically the rough maximum under state exempt ADUs for a lot is your primary home, one detached, one interior or conversion ADU, and one junior. I mean, most people aren't going to have that many, but still, the junior's not going to be sold separately, so you're still looking at a maximum of three.
Got it.
What
Thank
is
you.
a junior ADU? Can somebody just explain that in 10 seconds, please?
Sure. It's it's a separate space inside the primary home's living space that has exterior access, a kitchenette, and it may or may not share a bath with the primary home.
Which, just to further that, is different from a, like, I guess, a regular ADU, or however you may call it, a non-junior, which is actually detached. Yes? Am I understanding that?
Fully self-contained. It may
Yeah.
be attached, it may be a conversion of a basement, but it's
Okay.
fully self-contained.
So it's the whether or not it shares something with like the main sort of like unit or house that determines whether or not it's a junior.
Not all junior ADUs do share a bath. They're allowed to.
Okay.
And if you have one, there's a deed restriction required saying that you have to be an owner occupant in order to have that junior ADU. There's some good reasons for that. Regular ADUs have no such restrictions, but they may be attached, they may be an interior conversion or conversion of a garage. All of those are fair game for ADU condos. But the junior ADU is kind of a special animal. And because of that fact that it might be dependent upon a bath, it's not a candidate for the condo.
And okay, so Nish asks, is the condoization of ADUs a new law or regulation? They don't think they've seen or read about those. So yes, AB 1033 was something that was on the ballot last year, and it was passed thanks to voters, right? And so this is the part where that was passed, but now we sort of have to like enforce or implement that law that was passed. So that's what that is about.
Yeah,
Uh,
it was a state bill that was passed both houses of Congress in the
mhm.
state, the House and the Senate, and then it was signed by the governor last October.
Yeah. Andrew adds in the chat, I would say one of the main differences is that a junior ADU can be made from, oh, I'm sorry, something just blocked my chat. A junior ADU can be made from existing living space, whereas an attached ADU must be either a new construction attached or a conversion of space that wasn't livable. I'm gonna read that again because it's kind of a lot maybe to digest if you're not familiar with, like me, with the ADU stuff. So again, he says, I would say one of the main differences is that a junior ADU can be made from existing living space, whereas an attached ADU must be either a new construction attached or a conversion of space that wasn't livable. Thank you for that, Andrew. What else do we have? Anyone else have questions? What other things might we be missing? Andrew, do you have anything else to add?
I would I would just like to say if you are facing questions about ADUs in general, before you even get to the whole condo question, if people start to question whether they're actually affordable as rentals or whether regular people can afford to build them, The answers to both of those is yes. So we have now have a lot of good studies. There's a great one that just came out from Santa Barbara County. There's one done by the NYU Furman Center showing that ADUs are built by all kinds of people, and they are rented at generally 65% of them are affordable to lower and moderate income people. So they absolutely are adding affordable homes as rentals in California in very large numbers. And as such, cities and counties are leaning on them in their required number of affordable homes they are required to build by the state and what's called their RENA goals. And they're leaning on ADUs very heavily to achieve this. So that argument's over with. ADUs are housing, and they're housing that people can afford. They make neighborhoods more inclusive, where previously there was just one big home per lot. They're very valuable, and that value is being understood better and better across the whole country.
I had a quick question, if that's okay.
Go for it.
Would this also apply? I know that multifamily units can also have ADUs, whether it's an apartment building or whether, a duplex or what have you. Would this also be applicable to those kinds of ADUs as well? And do we know what would happen then with the rest? Like if it was a duplex, would that be 4 units condos, or would that be a duplex and 2 ADUs? How might that look?
I believe that any ADU can be. That's a good question, though. Is that right, Andrew? That multifamily
It
as
is
well?
right. I think really the question is like, are you going to have 2 rentals and then 2 separate condos?
Mhm.
We get hung up on, and I wouldn't say I've heard of it being done, but that is how it could work, where you could separately sell some of those ADUs as a condo, and you could still have rentals, or the primary units could be condo mapped as well. It all depends on how you submit the condo map and how they're separated.
Right. And we find that in the larger multifamily properties, the ADU opportunity is really being taken up by people who want to add units at much lower cost and much faster. So those, I think, will probably continue to be rentals, but maybe some of those smaller properties, the middle housing size multifamily at under 6 units, I could see them being condoized.
Gotcha. Just curious. Thanks.
Yeah, and just to add to that, there's nothing this is Ari from Homeplex. There's nothing that can stop anybody really from doing a traditional condo map on multifamily. It happens all the time. What AB 1033 does is it opens it up for the cities to allow condoization of the ADU portion. So if you have and then if you combine that with some other legislation like 1211, you could actually add a lot more ADUs, allowing for a lot more condos. So like if you took a 8-unit apartment complex, you could presumably add 8 ADUs and condoize the whole thing. So it really presents opportunities to create that affordability through density.
True. Yes, that's right. Almost nothing has a provision against condo conversion the way ADUs have. So people have been condoizing apartments forever, but this would allow them. 1211 is one that was just passed that increases the number of detached ADUs that can be added to multifamily and helps with some of the parking replacement issues too. So I could see them being combined. It can also be combined, again, not mandatory, but possible, with SB 9, which is the urban lot split and duplex bill that passed, and with the small lot subdivision bill, SB 648. Or is it 684? One of those two.
All the numbers.
Yeah.
And to that point also, I just want to make sure anyone who can't see the chat, or for the video, for people who watch later, Nish also asked, does 1033 conflict with SB 9 at all, or do they maybe complement one another? And SB 9 again is the urban lot split bill that Celeste just mentioned. And Andrew answered AB 1033 only deals with ADU, where SB 9 and SB 450, which strengthens SB 9, strengthens SB 9 for primary units and not accessory dwelling units. SB 9 units can be sold separately today. Andrew, can you maybe, or Celeste, I'm sorry, if one of you can sort of like expound on that just a tiny bit so that way we understand clearly, that would be great.
Well, ADUs can be added to SB9 properties, so a total of 4 units, including ADUs, can be created on an SB9 property, whether with a lot split or just by adding another home. The maximum is 4. Andrew, do you see any reason why one couldn't use, why one couldn't sell them separately as condos?
Well, I mean, right now the SB9 unit and the primary unit can be sold as condos today anywhere. Whereas unless AB 1033 is opted in, the ADUs cannot be sold as condos.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If
Yes,
they could do the other though, and have
they could do the other. There should be no reason that those two can't. But with AB 1033, it really allows for the accessory dwelling units to be sold as condos as well.
and maybe a streamlined path to fourplexes. We're still ironing out, SB 450 helped some of the issues with SB 9, but it's still being, implementation challenges are still being worked out.
Can, just so everyone's clear on everything, can maybe we talk just a tiny bit about SB 450, just so folks know about that intersection there?
Right, so we do have a new, and I think Turner Center also has a handout on all of the new legislation that's housing and ADU and middle housing related. I would recommend you go there, UC Berkeley Turner Center. But we also have one that's kind of more confined to ADUs and middle housing changes, and it details these updates on 450. Really, I think for the most part, there's sort of cleanups that bring SB9 projects, that gives them some of the benefits that ADU law has that just didn't get written in originally. So things like charter cities have to adopt it. But remember, we had a couple charter cities sue and say they weren't going to do SB9 projects. Or things like you can't add development standards that aren't related to the design of the units. It's sort of kind of technical, the changes in 450. You have anything to add to that, Andrew?
I think one of the things that held up a lot of people is that the size requirements on SB9, and with SB 450 now, whatever the house can be, the second unit can be as well. And I think that's a big thing, because many of these larger lots where people are looking at it, they want to build a house that's equivalent to the house that they have. They don't want to do a tiny home or a smaller unit. And so I think that really made it much more attractive. Plus all of the cleanup of things that cities use to kind of stop you from moving forward, or kind of making it so difficult you don't want to even proceed.
Wow, great news from Glendale. Someone put in the chat that City Council is going to vote on that on November 19th. Okay,
Can I
test run.
talk about that for a minute?
Please
Yeah.
do.
Okay, so hi everyone, my name's Shane Lee. I'm the chapter leader for Glendale YIMBY. I know, what a title. Anyway, I talked with the economic developer, the director of economic development for Glendale. His name's Brad, super great guy. He's super supportive of this. And the item will be on the agenda on November 19th at 6 p.m. Glendale City Hall. I've also had a couple in-person conversations with the mayor of Glendale, Mayor Asatrian. She's awesome. She hasn't said she's a YIMBY, but she's a YIMBY, and she supports it as well. And Bradley says he's confident it'll pass because this is one of the things that Glendale is interested in. But again, I'm not going to be happy until it actually passes. So if any of y'all want to come through on that day, great. And I was at the meeting yesterday, and one of the last things they did was they voted to put it on the agenda. Because I put in public comment, but they were like, we're not discussing it. We're just putting it on the agenda. So it will be on the agenda. November 19th, council meetings start at 6 p.m. We're pretty sure there's going to be support. We're pretty certain it's going to pass. But any of y'all who want to come through and give some of those explanations, great. Celeste, literally, if you could just repeat that slideshow you just did for the council, that would put me over the moon. But we need all the support we can get.
I think you only get 3 minutes, but but I'm definitely going to send you the letter. I'll send Joshua all the resources, and he can share it with you. Get that letter out, signed by a bunch of different people to the city council, and yeah, if I'm available, I'll go to that thing. Absolutely.
Just for a little reference, guys, after this, we're going to do a follow-up, and we'll be indicating like some steps where you guys need to do moving forward. That way, making sure that you guys are up to date, make sure you get connected with your organizer. I do want to mention, let them know that you guys do want to move forward with this. That way they can guide you through the process. And when you set up meetings with elected officials, we do have the policy team ready for support. So that way they can be present in that meeting, and then we'll have the resource. We'll lay this out in an email so that way you guys have all that useful information for you all.
Yes, thank you, Jaime. And so in that follow-up, we will include all of the resources that Celeste has talked about and showed us today. And I'll also include the bit that you talked about from the Turner Center. So that way everyone can look at all of those law and regulation changes. So that way everyone feels like they're really prepared for that sort of thing. And Andrew asked, can we confirm, just so we're really sure, so that way folks know that they can allot their time and all of that stuff, confirm that that Glendale City meeting is indeed the 19th. I think he sees that it's the 12th, which would have been
Yes.
yesterday,
Yeah, so yesterday it was on the agenda, but they didn't discuss it. They just voted to put it on the 19th agenda. That's why I was asked to do public comment, and they said, no, we're just motion to put this on the next agenda. They all voted yes. So next meeting is when there's going to be an actual discussion of the item. I'm pretty sure Bradley Calvert is he's gonna present an ordinance to the council and say, y'all should implement this ordinance. So that's going to be the meeting where you want to bring your, where you want to bring your ammunition, bring your facts, bring your PowerPoint. That's where you want to that's where you want to make them vote yes on it. And I talked in person to Bradley a week ago with Jake Pierce and Scott Epstein, and he said this. So and also it was voted to be on the agenda. So I'm 99% sure it's going to be on the agenda.
Okay, we got it. Thank you, Shane. And I kind of want to also read out something that Kevin had put in the chat, because I mean, really, this is one of the many reasons that this is the sort of thing we're advocating for. And he says that, passing this, getting the cities to opt into this is going to be really beneficial. It would be great for people who have been previously priced out of the city of Los Angeles. They could theoretically move to Glendale if AB 1033 is implemented, right? Well, the idea is that, and Celeste mentioned this when we first started, that something that we're trying to get more of is that sort of missing middle type housing, right? There's sort of like no real solution for some folks that maybe don't necessarily qualify for subsidized housing. And then there's other housing that's just way too expensive, right? So this missing middle, we need all housing at all levels of affordability, right? To be able to increase the supply to meet the demand for the housing that we have now, right? We have huge demand, and the supply is where we're coming up short. So yes, this is exactly what we need. Our AHLA sort of theory of change is that if we build more housing, all levels of affordability, right? All kinds of typology, we're not narrowing it down to one type, right? If we build more, then that naturally will sort of bring rents down. Maybe we'll have safer streets, right? Because people will be able to get into a home. So many things like that. So that is a perfect thing to mention, is that this is for the good of Los Angeles and beyond. We want everyone to be able to live comfortably, and this is one of the steps that we can take to sort of achieve that.
Yep, and I will note that a recent study said that in places with less restrictive zoning, the rate of homelessness is lower. So it's directly related.
Embrace that. Feel that, everybody. That's a really, really, really salient point. So yeah. Okay. So
one last question, if that's okay. On the is it SB 450? Yeah, like SB 450. Did that, you mentioned something about the charter cities, that it's requiring them to acknowledge SB 9. I don't know if I heard this correctly. does this kind of address the lawsuit that happened with the charter cities, meaning that the legal grounds that were kind of prohibit SB9 in those cities are no longer viable? Like you could do SB9 in those cities?
What happens with the lawsuit? It should be dropped, but charter cities are no longer exempt.
Yes.
Okay, no, that's good to know, because we had an SB9 project we were looking at and like said, with the uncertainty, we wouldn't want to go down that road. So if
No,
that
they
kind
added
of
in the legislative intent language to say this is why we're doing it, because that had been missing from SB9.
right.
This is
Okay.
why cities have to carry their fair share, and that means you too, charter city. So yeah.
Nice. Thank you.
You don't have to read that, Josh.
I was actually going to ask if maybe you could just talk about it because I was like, whoa.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shane, did you have another question?
I just wanted to say, so Andrew was talking, he wanted like confirmation about whether it'll be on the agenda. So it's not, I mean, the last city council meeting was yesterday, so I don't think they've made the agenda yet, but I'm gonna email Bradley, I'm gonna text the mayor, she gave me her number, she asked for mine actually. I'm gonna text her and say, can we get a confirmation? Because I got important, busy people, all right, who don't want to waste their time and they have things to do. But if it is happening, they're going to be there. So I'm going to put my email in the chat, Glendale Yimby, and then I want anyone who's interested, email me saying this is so and so. When you get confirmation, let me know. So please do that.
And I'm going to check out the ordinance too. I'm sure they'll post it in the staff report when the agenda documents get up there. So we'll take a look at it and make sure there's nothing gnarly in there that shouldn't be there.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks to both of you. And so I will just reiterate that we will send out the follow-up that Jaime mentioned. We'll be sending that out tomorrow. So we want to make sure that people get that ASAP, especially with the meeting coming up on the 19th. So look out in your emails for that kind of stuff. We will get that out to you before end of day tomorrow. Andrew, your hand is raised. What do you got?
Yeah, I think we talked a lot about the technical aspects of the bill, but the big ask is that anyone watching this, no matter where you are, whether you're in Los Angeles, whether you're in LA County, we all need to reach out to our city council members, our county supervisors, our planning commissioners, our mayor's office, and just let them know that we want them to look at implementing AB 1033. It is an opt-in. It's not something that they have to do. So it's up to us as people who live in our cities and want to see it more affordable to reach out and say, please take a look at this. And we'd like to see it implemented in our cities. They may not even be aware of it. And you reaching out to them may be the first time they hear about something that is a great idea and will help the city. So it really is impactful for each and every one of us to speak to our city council and our elected officials and just let them know to please look into this and bring it up and hopefully implement it so that we can see it. The more cities that implement it, the more us professionals that are working on it can get better at doing it. We will have more service providers that will help with the lot splits. As there's just one place right now in San Jose who's implementing it, it's hard for us to really move at scale when it's very limited. But as that grows, it'll grow across California. So that is my ask for anyone who's watching this anywhere in California.
I couldn't have said it better. Yes, the more cities that do it, the more scale we'll have, the more costs will come down. But if they don't hear from their what do you call the people who live in their jurisdiction? The
constituents.
Constituents. If they don't hear from their constituents that it's wanted and needed, A, they might not even be aware of it, and B, they won't know that they need to take action. So 1000%, you're absolutely right.
And I also want to re-emphasize something that you said earlier, Celeste, about like doing a Google search, like to find out when this sort of stuff, gets talked about. Just a small anecdote, like without any real information, but just to give you the idea, we were at Beach Street's Uptown in Long Beach this past weekend. We were tabling there. And several people who stopped by the Abundant Housing LA and Everybody's Long Beach table were like, oh, ADUs, like they'd all sort of heard of it, right? And so they just wanted a little bit more information on what we can do to make that possible. There are different cities that maybe are dreaming up programs for ADUs and things like that. So really give it just a little bit of a search if you're curious about finding out the status, right? The progress of this sort of thing. You will find stuff. So wherever you live, try for that. You'll find some good information, and then we can all advocate for more housing, which is what we need.
Yeah, and just one more point, a lot of places, statewide, federally, and locally, have programs for first-time home buyers. They have down payment assistance. They have a lot of programs. But if there's nothing for people to buy that they can afford, then that money doesn't get used and people don't get helped. So this can create, without additional public subsidy, just the operation of the market, this can create a pipeline so those programs can do more.
Absolutely. Okay. So, are there any last minute questions? Anything anyone has? Anything you could think of? Okay. All right. I want to thank you all for being here tonight. It's just after 7:15, and so I want to let everyone go and give them a nice rest of their night. Shane, I knew you would. I knew you
Well,
would.
can you
Go
just
for it.
Can you put my email in the follow-up that you send to everybody, the Glendale Yimby?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Absolutely. Sure. That's great. Thank you for asking that. Okay, awesome. Yeah, so thank you everyone. Thank you, Celeste, so much for doing this with us. I really, really appreciate your time and all of the information that you've given us. And thank you to everyone else on the call, Andrew, Shane, everyone who knows stuff and was able to offer information about this. This is perfect. This was perfect, and I couldn't have gone any better, right? It was so great. So we got really great information. We're really going to work hard to get this implemented everywhere that it's possible. And just thank you all for taking the time and having the care to show up for something like this.
Thank you for organizing it.
Thank you all.
All right, have a good night, everybody. Sleep well.